welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Gemini, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of July. I hope you're well. I'm using the Crow Tarot for you today. I know these readings are late. Thank you for waiting for me. Let's get straight on with this. Could I have 3 cards for Gemini, please? First one is the High Priestess in your recent past. Can I have current energy? 6 of Pentacles. And what is coming towards Gemini, please? Thank you. For July, we have the Knight of Wands. That is Sagittarian energy. That's your opposite sign on the zodiac here. We have the 5 of Swords at the bottom of the deck, but it's followed by the Knight of Swords. Ooh, and look at that. And the Magician is directly behind that. Now, there's a lot of disagreement, or not disagreement, I think people do it their own way, you know, as to which sign is represented by the Magician. Some people say it's Virgo, and that just doesn't, it doesn't fit with me. I feel like it is Gemini, because abracadabra, I create as I speak. That seems to me to be a very Capricorn, a very Gemini thing to do, right? To speak things into creation. So for me, that is you. And we've got you again there with the Knight of Swords, and then we've got you kind of barreling towards this 5 of Swords. Now, the card that is sitting beneath these 3 is the Tower, and this is quite interesting for me, not least because we've got the High Priestess. Well, there's a process going on here, right? That's very, very clear to me. But we've got you standing in a very powerful position here. Now, whether this 5 of Swords represents a way in which you have been thinking about something in a slightly wonky fashion, and it denotes a point of realization for you, that is possible, or whether you are uncovering somebody else's wonky thinking, wonky words, the 5 of Swords, I tend to see it as a kind of cognitive dissonance, or those cognitive loops that we get stuck in sometimes, but it is also indicative of the ways at which we talk at cross purposes to each other, in the best possible case, or in the other, when somebody is being actively deceptive about their words or their thoughts or something, But sometimes there's people who say anything to win the argument rather than, actually listening to the other person and trying to come to a point of mutual understanding. Now, whether that is you and what's going on in your head, or whether it is a situation that you find yourself in with someone else, I do have strong hopes for you that this July there are big changes being wrought, right? And these changes do feel to me like they are empowering you in a way that you weren't a month ago, right? So let's pop those to the side for a second. Let's get some clarifiers for this. I want to go with the commonplace tarot. Get some clarifiers for these and see what's going on, because like I said, it does feel to me like there is a process going on here for you. So tell me about High Priestess. We've got the 7 of Cups. Oh, we've got loads of cards come out here. We've got the 7 of Cups. We've got the World, we've got the Death card, and we've got the 8 of Pentacles. That's quite a lot of clarifiers. We're going to take them all, because they do rather seem to fit with the energy of the Tower, as we've seen it there in the shadow cards. Tell me about the 6 of Pentacles, please. Thank you. We have the 6 of Cups and we have the 9 of Swords. That's interesting too. That's Knight of Wands. That's Knight of Wands here. Whoa! Wow! This is fantastic. We have the 9 of Pentacles and we have the Ace of Pentacles. Now, because these readings are a little bit late, I would imagine that a great number of you are already at the Knight of Wands, 9 of Pentacles, Ace of Pentacles, but I think that it would still be useful for us to go through what has occurred to get you to where you are right now, because as many of you know, I think that, self-understanding, self-awareness, self-knowledge, introspection, reflection, all of these things are extremely useful to know thyself. And when you do things without really knowing why you do them, generally that's where it tends to be the shadowy part or your subconscious that is actually taking charge of a situation. So That's why we're going to do that. We have the Two of Swords at the bottom of the deck here, and I think it's speaking to something that you've known but that you haven't really wanted to consciously acknowledge at this point, right? There's been somewhat of a, what's the best way to put it? It feels almost like the emphasis for you has been on maintaining something, right? But it's almost been like a false balance. Sort of really focusing in on one very small part of a situation, when actually there's a bigger balance that's being asked to be made here. Now, like I said, I'm not quite sure if that Five of Swords is referring to something about the way that you have been thinking, or something about, you know, somebody else's thought processes that you are uncovering. So maybe somebody isn't quite as supportive as you thought they were. It's maybe somebody has been actively trying to sabotage you, stick a sword, a knife in your back, something like that. But whatever it is, it feels to me like the knowledge is the most important thing, whether it's knowledge of yourself or knowledge of somebody else, or knowledge of yourself that comes from what it is that you are uncovering this month, you know. Watch us shine of it. Right, so we start off with the High Priestess, and this is in your recent past. Well, I'm going to do these readings. I say your recent past can be 5-6 weeks ago, or it could literally be this morning. It's just not now, prior to now, but not too long ago. And we have the High Priestess, Piscean energy, and it speaks about feeling, right? That kind of knowledge that comes from feeling and intuiting rather than thinking. And what I love about this High Priestess in the Crow Tarot, I'm going to show you there, that she is like the Magician, depicted as having all 4 elements on the card with her. Now, she is the keeper of wisdom, she is the keeper of secrets sometimes, but it's that knowing that comes from deep within here, and you don't really have any basis. Well, you might do, actually. It's the kind of feeling that you get, and you at this point don't have any concrete evidence for why you might feel like that, why you're feeling drawn to do this or not to do this, you know, why you, I don't know, those kind of, you know, the people that you meet and you just feel like you were supposed to meet them, like there's something about that interaction that just felt a little less than or a little more than coincidence, rather. Yeah. So she has all of these elements depicted on the card, and the Ace of Swords is one of them. But her focus is on the moon, and you know, she's standing above the cup there. The sword is actually off to the side, and for you, it seems like you have been either dealing. Well, some of you will have absolutely been getting some sort of information coming through that's coming through by like non-standard means, let's put it that way, right? Because I've used the term spiritual downloads before, but you know, I actually really dislike it. I don't like it at all, and I can't really tell you why, but it doesn't sit well with me, and so I'm trying not to use that. I'm trying to find something else to describe that sort of information acquiring behaviours that seem to be coming from source, or coming from the universe, or coming from your higher self, or whatever it is, you know. But these things are landing, they're plopping directly into your brain, and you're like, oh, there's something new that I either hadn't thought about, or, you know, that I can't possibly verify, but I've just got a feeling, there's a tug in the gut that's taking me this way, or making me go in a different way altogether, you know. She's actually looking away from the sword at this point. And if the sword would, the Ace of Swords that is on this card, if the Ace of Swords would represent a verifiable truth, she's not really interested in it. She's interested in how she's feeling. I think there's been a lot of emotional processing going on for you. Like I said, I can see this all being a process that's going on here. A lot of emotional processing. Because we've got the Seven of Cups, we've got the World, we've got Death, and we've got the Eight of Pentacles. Now, all of this speaks to change. It speaks to endings too, right? And forget that Tower card that was appearing there. But it seems like the kind of changes that are being implemented and the endings that are being, brought into existence that propel you forwards. It's almost like you're kind of breaking out of something here. And it might be a bit of cyclical thinking. It might be a cognitive loop that you've been stuck in. Or it might be a way that you felt like you were not able to kind of batter your way into this particular problem that you've got, particular issue that's been bugging you for a while. And you've realised it's not a thinking situation, it's a feeling situation, right? Sometimes the feelings have to come first, sometimes the intuition has to come first. And we've got that Seven of Cups, which talks about illusion and talks about confusion. And it talks about things being very, very unclear. There's a myriad of cups in front of you, and they contain different things, and some of those things are good, and some of those things are bad. And certainly with the way that the Seven of Cups is usually depicted, it's difficult to get close enough to those cups to be able to work out which is which. Now, the fact that this is clarifying the High Priestess makes me feel like you've subjugated, not subjugated, what's the word that I'm looking for? When you delegate, there we go, you've delegated in a way that is quite unusual to you, a particular issue, to the more emotional, intuitive parts of you. Now, Gemini energy is actually very, very light. When it's high vibration, it's very, very light. It's very intuitive. It's very sensitive. But I think that you like to be able to talk your way around a problem. I think a lot of the ways that you tend to understand a problem is by talking it through with other people. Maybe you even talk it through with yourself, who knows. But that keeps it very much up here, right? And even in here, in the throat. When it feels to me like it's a bit more of a case of sitting with each of these cups and allowing what is within those to show themselves to you, right? Almost like you haven't had quite enough information to make a proper decision, and that's why your mind's been going at it from all sorts of different directions, and it still just doesn't make sense whichever way you do it. Whereas if you sit with it quietly and you feel it, you just feel it, it becomes something entirely different. Geminis like to understand things. There's that analytical side to you, and I think sometimes when you feel things, then your mind gets involved and you start questioning it. You'll start looking for that Ace of Swords. You'll start looking for that verifiable truth of the matter, And sometimes it's just not there. And in this situation, this feels to me like it is what you're doing, because we've got the World card and we've got the Death card coming up directly after. Now, the World card has got the 4 fixed signs on it, so Leo, Taurus, Scorpio and Aquarius, and it speaks to completions, it speaks to cycles coming to an end. And then we have the Death card, which is a card that talks about big transformations. It talks about endings, yes, but it's specifically about transformation from one state to another. And we've got you going through some sort of transformation. I mean, it might be that some of you have been having kind of a life-changing experience this month, and what this is here is a way of trying to emotionally process what's been going on. There might have been some upheaval, you might have had a new experience that is so new that it's just completely blown your mind. It's maybe you've experienced new cultures, maybe you've met some new people who are so very different to you that they've taken a little bit of time to get their mind around. Maybe you've had some sort of big tower moment that you haven't experienced before, and now even understanding it as you do as some sort of tower moment is sort of waiting for the dust to settle before you can start picking up bits of rubble, or even just decide what it is that you're doing next. Because I feel a focusing of attention for you. I feel like there's a There's an urge not to waste any time over something. Now, you don't want to rush into something. That's not what I'm feeling for you here. It's not, and Gemini, sometimes you rush in like mouth first, swords first. It's not that sort of thing. This feels very internal, and it feels like a shifting in what it is that you want from the rest of your life. And that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter whether you are 20 years old while you're having this, or 60 or 70. What is important is that what experience it is that you have had is changing the way that you are approaching the path in front of you. It might even be taking it in a different direction, because this card speaks about commitment, and it feels like a renewed commitment or a renewed resolve to apply your energy towards things that make your life better, rather than a hamster wheel kind of stuff. I mean, it's shown a hamster wheel for all of you, where you're just kind of on it and you're just running and you're just doing your day-to-day shit. There's something much bigger going on here, and you're not alone in this. Like, all of the other signs that I've read for this month have all shown some indication that there is something life-changing, whether that is dramatic, outwardly dramatic, or quite inwardly subtle, that is changing directions for everyone. And it's being shown very emphatically here for you. You're prepared to work hard for what it is that you want, but what it is that you are choosing to commit to is changing this month, or it has been changing up until where we are right now. And there's a sense of commitment here to you and your internal experience that feels to me like it's putting a lot of the emotional confusions to bed. It's almost like when you reject the premise of what life should be like, that you are told life should be like, and then you measure yourself to it and you're like, well, fuck, I'm not even managing that, I'm, a terrible person or whatever. And you actually just breathe into it and go, do you know what? I'm prepared to see where this goes. I'm prepared to kind of relinquish a level of control and just kind of roll with it. But the internal experience is the important thing, because it feels like it's shifting and it's changing for you. So where the things that might have been confusing would have been things that we would choose not to engage with, not internally at least. It's sort of seeing things for as they are in terms of your emotions and your emotional responses, and then just letting it go. I can see why the magician was there, because everything that I'm seeing here seems to be drawing you inward, or has been drawing you inward, Gemini. And I think that the moves that you're going to make in the next couple of months will likely reflect the kind of big changes that have been going on inside. But for this month, and certainly, the time frame running up to this month, it has been more about creating a sense of stability in you and know thyself. That seems to be something really, really important to you right now, and it's less about other people, it's less about your important relationships, it's all about really getting to know who you are, and in seeing yourself as you actually are, realising that there are actually a number of changes, fairly big changes, that you're going to be able to make very, very soon, because you rejected the premise of what was presented to you. It doesn't mean that you can't still have those things, but it feels like the way that you're coming up to them is different now. I think that's really good. I personally think that's really good. So we come to the Six of Pentacles, and remember how I said a couple of times, I can see a process going on here, right? So we've got the know thyself aspect of this High Priestess, very deep, very internal, very feminine, very much about the way that you feel rather than the way that you think. Perhaps realising, if we just weave this Five of Swords in here, that the way that you think and the way that you feel are actually two very different things, and maybe the way that you feel has more to offer the way that you think than you have up until this point allowed. Possibly because it might be painful, possibly because there might have been a bit of fear there, but nevertheless it's here and it's happening, you know. So we go from that to the Knight of Wands, which is a very outward, active, very fiery, very experiency, you know, very free and liberated way of being, via the Six of Pentacles, this state of balance that's coming in, right? So sometimes this can be talking about the fact that there is a state of balance, and that is a really good thing. The other way to look at it is it's talking about a need for that. It is necessary for you to balance out what it is that you know, what it is that you found out about yourself, whether you like it or whether you don't, because both of those are equally as valuable, possibly in terms of propelling you forwards. What it is that you don't like about yourself might be more useful at this point, you know. But we're back to these pentacles, and these pentacles are showing up a lot here for you, and it feels determined, it feels resolved. You know, just as we have this commitment here in the Ace of Pentacles, when we've got it here, it's like it's a commitment to stabilization. It's a commitment to bringing everything into balance. It's a commitment to, certainly here, not allowing things that have happened in the past to affect the way that you are moving forwards. And that's a very strong thing here. You know, to go from there to here, whether it is things that you've cocked up, mistakes that you've made, you know, kind of slightly like warped logic that you've employed because you really, really wanted a particular outcome, so you haven't seen X, Y, and Z, you've not paid attention to these things, well, that's possible. Or whether it's pain that has been created by other people behaving that way towards you. You know, the Six of Cups is the past. It can even be childhood and past lives, right? But it's definitely the past. It's the energies, the experiences that have gone into making you who you are emotionally. Step before the Seven of Cups, interestingly. So it's like, what of your past makeup has led to this state of confusion and illusion that we see with the Seven of Cups, and how are you drawing an end to it? Because I feel like this overthinking and anxiety, and you know, this goes everywhere, right the way up to, you know, clinical depression and mental illness. It's not a gentle energy here at all. You know, what keeps you up at night? If you woke up in the middle of the night, what would be the thing that you would be thinking about? What would be the thing that would stop you going back to sleep? That's what the Nine of Swords is here. And often that's a question of perspective. It's like, where have you been overthinking things? Where have you been giving too much weight to each one of these swords? You know, remember the High Priestess was turning away from that Ace of Swords, where we give primacy to the mind, we end up with far too many swords. We naturally overthink things, and then we make ourselves fucking miserable. I mean, this is a beautiful set of cards that speak to me of the fact that you have identified this about yourself, and this allowing yourself to kind of slip in more to a High Priestess kind of energy, and depriving your subconscious of the things that it likes to, you know, use to stab you with. It's 9 swords. It's a very strong move in creating this very stable positioning moving forwards, and it does feel balanced, and it does feel aligned, and it feels, again, very much like you know what's going on with you now. You know, whether this has been instigated by you know, a difficult and challenging experience that you're having with someone else, or whether you've just kind of tripped over this level of introspection, you know, whether these insights that are coming from elsewhere are just getting you to pause long enough to kind of look at something slightly differently, or take a step back and turn 90 degrees, go, well shit, there's all of this stuff here that I didn't see, no wonder it was confusing, I've got all these fucking cups everywhere, you know. And cups have in the past led to a Nine of Swords kind of situation for me, for you, for everyone. Let me just pull one more card for that, because I feel like there's something just sitting below the surface and I can't quite feel my way around it. What have we got here? We've got, got the King of Pentacles in reverse, and we've got the Three of Cups here. Now, this is very interesting. This is Taurus energy here. And as well as indicating potentially a Taurus person, you might be dealing with a Taurus, and if you are, then that's a bit of a red flag for me. Sorry, any king who shows up in their reversed aspect is someone to be wary of. And in this case, it would be somebody who's quite materialistic, someone who's quite closed-minded, someone who does things only their way and judges anybody else who does them differently, right? But I don't think that that's true for all of you. I feel like it's an understanding, because, you know, we've got this balance coming on. We've got the you know, an understanding of the past, showing how that has led inexorably to a Nine of Swords in the present. But this card talks to me about duty and responsibility, right? Because the King of Pentacles shows up for everyone, right? It's how he shows his care. We've got cards here that talk about emotional support. I mean, this looks to me, Gemini, that what it is that you're realising is that you have been that emotional support for everybody else in your life, right? But almost to a fault. Now, whether it's because you're, you know, incredibly emotionally invested in your friends, and why wouldn't you be? You know, that's it. But over invested. And where you haven't shown that level of investment in yourself. Because remember, I said it felt like you were committing to yourself. It felt like you were reinvesting or renewing this sense of commitment to yourself. The King of Pentacles in reverse, for me, speaks to that realization that it's everybody else first and not you. That you've taken responsibility for actually 1,000,001 things, and possibly because you're sensitive, and possibly because you're very empathic, and, you know, all that sort of thing, that a lot of their feels have been taken on for you, the people that you've been spending time with. Now, some of those people aren't very useful to you at the moment, Gemini. And not because they're bad people, but because you seem to be picking up empathically, psychically, however you want to put it, you're picking up mucky energy from somewhere. You know, this kind of very straight line. I'm not going to look at my emotions too much. I kind of know that they're there, and that's all sound, you know, I'm not going to look at this part of it because that's just messy and confusing, and I'm going to think very, you know, vigorously about everything that I'm doing. Put lots of thought into it, you know, that Gemini mental agility. But there's a really, really deceptively simple truth that you've been missing, and that's just that you do not give yourself what you give other people. And more than that, I feel a lot of the people that you've been giving to haven't deserved that level of attention and energy flow from you. And all it's really done is depleted you. Now, some absolutely will be worth it, for sure, but only after you've sorted yourself out. You know, only after there's enough for you, and then there's some left over should you be giving it away. Like, this feels to me like this is what you've recognised about yourself. You take responsibility for things that you should not. You take responsibility for people that you should not. You take on other people's woes as if they were your own because you genuinely feel them. Now, I wouldn't dare to say for a second that you should become less sensitive, but there's certainly a sense that it needs to be better controlled, and that you need to be stable, you need to be balanced, you need to be aligned before you even think about passing all of that on, you know? It's not selfish to think about yourself. You know, the presence of the magician particularly is giving me a sense of the fact that you need to pull some of your power back to you, because it feels like it's been relinquished somewhere. And in this act of pulling it all back to you, we get to the Knight of Wands. right? What has been a very internal experience for you is now turning external, where you can start doing other things. You know, the Knight of Wands is freedom. It is liberation. I mean, like I said, it's Sagittarius energy too. Sagittarians are thinkers. Well, they're philosophers, really. But in any card in the one suit, the emphasis is on experiencing and doing and getting out there. And you don't necessarily have to do it with people. You might be doing it on your own. But the point is, the focus of the energy is now less internal and subjective and more external, and a reflection of what it is that you have discovered here within yourself. So these two energies here are almost polar opposites. This is fixed earth. It doesn't really move anywhere. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's very, very stubborn. It's very, very fixed energy. You know, this is mutable fire. And as it happens, it's a much better companion for you than Taurus energy. Well, we know this is kind of turning up this way. Like, where have you been keeping yourself stuck? Where have you been keeping yourself very fixed? You know, where, potentially, have you become very dogmatic in your opinions and your perspective and things? Like, where is the flexibility? It should be in you, because you are mutable air. Right? Air and fire go together very, very well. Opposite signs on the zodiac. Say that again. You know, this is about fun. This is about freedom. This is about a lack of commitment, where this is all about commitment and responsibilities and duties and all that sort of thing. This is about going where the fun is. This is about allowing yourself to have fun. You know, where have you allowed yourself to get too bogged down in other people's shit, in your own mental shit, you know, and where have you stopped living, and how is this about to change? Because, well, like I said, I feel like some of you are already very much in the grip of this at the moment anyway. So we've got the two cards underneath here. We've got the Nine of Pentacles and the Ace. Now, I actually really, really like this. I couldn't like it anymore. This is about resource management for me. Good, energetic resource management. It can talk about your money as well, to be fair. It being a 9, it talks about the individual. Your mastery of your own pentacles, whatever they may be. And for me, because it's energetic currency, it can be money, but it can also be time and care and effort and money and love and anything that you are capable of investing. So how are you managing those investments? Where are you overextended? Where are you overinvested in people, situations, things that are possibly nothing to do with you? You know, where is that investment coming because other people are codependent on you? I mean, that's a possibility too. But it's like, where is your energy going? What is it that you're doing? I mean, this to me suggests that you've had some major energetic leaks and you haven't known about it until recently. And now you're seeing them. The work that you are doing on yourself seems to be to plug these up, and rightly so, because that's what, you know, that's what catalyzes that magician energy. You've got all of the tools that you need. You've actually got all of the energy that you need when it's not leaking out of the bottom of your, you know, receptacle, whatever vessel it is that you're holding it in, right? It's a card of self-sufficiency and independence, not codependence, not taking on duties and responsibilities that don't belong to you for other people, for whatever reason it is that you're doing it. The fact that it's come up with the Ace of Pentacles, I like very much, because as this energetic currency, this is like, well, these are all the things that I have. Here are all of my resources. I can actually see them in one place for now. I can also see where they have been disappearing. And that Ace of Pentacles becomes the potential to focus your energy somewhere else. It doesn't even have to be somewhere else, right? It can be on something that is already in your sphere. But it's an ace, so I think it's less likely, right? It's about redeploying your pentacle, redeploying your investments, redeploying your resources in a different direction. And it could be a job, it could be moving home, it could be a promotion, it could be any of those kind of things. Or it could be none of them. It could be God, I work myself to fucking death and I never have time to do anything. I need to change my life. I've got a load of friends and I only ever hear from them when they want something from me, you know? Something bad happens to my friends and I'm literally there, bottles of wine, ice cream, you know, whatever it is that girls do for each other, you know, like literally turning up, we're going to sort this shit out. I'm going to sit here and listen to you and you're going to feel better, like, because you are loved and I'm here for you. How many times does it happen the other way around? A further question for you, if you're really interested, is would you let it? Because I think you hold yourself to a different standard. You know, you are this person for these, you know, these people that you call friends, but if the roles were reversed, the likelihood is that you wouldn't necessarily expect or welcome the same back. Not all of you, but some of you. It's worth a thought. This card, with the Tower, with the Death card, even with the World card, actually, is talking to something coming to an end, right? An internalized experience that you've been having recently. And the Knight of Wands is talking about how it now becomes expressed outwardly. This is about how concrete changes are made outwardly too. And I think it's wonderful because it does say to me that by your own hand, you are going to be changing what does not suit you anymore. Simply because you are now in a position to be able to consider what might actually suit you, where you didn't even realise that you weren't doing that before. It's very, very interesting, Gemini. So I'm going to go over to Vimeo now. If you would like to join me over there, we're going to dig into what this Knight of Wands, Nine of Pentacles and Ace of Pentacles is really on about. I know there's some big cosmological stuff happening at the end of the month, and I wonder if perhaps you're getting roped into some of that. To be honest, I cannot see a sign really getting away from it. To be honest, like everybody's affected by something, and everybody seems to be making moves that are taking them off the beaten path, like away from where they thought they were going into a different direction. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's really, really good. So yes, if you would like to join me over there in Vimeo, the link is down in the description box. You could come over to Patreon, join the community over there, and then you would get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost. Absolutely amazing group of people. I'm so blessed to have them in my life. Or you could do neither, which is also absolutely fine. But I heard you kind of like this new version of you that is coming into being. And so I would just roll with it and see where it goes. Don't try and force yourself in any kind of direction. Definitely drop any sense of parenting words and just see where it goes. Right, know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.